Ever since I was a kid, I've always been into building things. My father at the time was a successful engineer who had his personal office at home. He'd let me in from time to time and let me watch or even help him whenever he was creating something I didn't really understand. But I liked it. It was therapeutic, to say the least. I knew from that point that I wanted to become just like him. And I did. Hey, my name's Lucas, and I'm here to present you to the greatest machine I've ever built. A machine that changes people's minds. I know, it's pretty hard to believe. I thought so too. But after multiple tries and test runs, all I can say is that it works like a charm. Why did I even build a machine like this in the first place? Well, I'm in my last year of college. You can say life hasn't been very nice to me. Money's been really tight. I'd go for a week surviving on just one loaf of bread and coffee. If not those, my usual meals are just composed of cheap noodles, and whatever my coin can afford. My education hasn't been going too well either. I just keep failing this subject for some reason. Like, the professor's purposely giving me a hard time. What's worse is that she never extends a deadline, especially when she knows her students can't really finish the project with the output she expects. And my love life? Non-existent. It's hard to balance all of these. Not when there's also the pressure of me trying to graduate on time, which worries me, because again, one of my subjects just keeps failing me over and over. My quizzes have okay scores, but my projects? It's like I'm presenting to NASA with the way her standards are. It's annoying and stressful, believe me. I just wanted to graduate. I didn't want to keep living like this for another year. I needed help, but I didn't think anyone could help me. Not when all of these things are personal problems I should be able to handle on my own. I actually thought I was done for when I saw my score for the final output, and my professor had talked to me about failing her class. I tried to explain to her how I felt, but she kept dismissing it as incompetence and that I should have tried harder. That none of these were her fault. That angered and saddened me. Most of all, I felt defeated. I tried to raise suggestions on how I could pass. Extracurricular activities, taking extra classes for summer, but she dismissed it all and told me it was her final decision, which was so unfair. I thought teachers were there to help students pass, not the other way around. I felt a lot of emotions, but I was mostly just frustrated. I kept thinking about how much I wanted to do something. That if I could change her mind, I would. I was talking to my parents about it when I called them that night, apologizing that I might have to extend a year. They were pretty cool with it, really, telling me to take my time and that there's no need to rush. I thanked them for being understanding, but I was still pretty upset and disappointed about it. I guess my dad could tell how I truly felt, so he offered to send me something that might cheer me up. I wasn't exactly expecting anything and reassured him I was fine, but he insisted. So I just ended up accepting it, and forgetting it a few days later until someone came knocking on my door. I was sulking in my dorm room on a sunny weekend, just thinking about where I went wrong and how I could have possibly prevented all of what happened until I heard that knock. I slowly got up to answer it, and was a bit surprised to see a delivery guy waiting outside. I told him I didn't order anything online, but he asked my name and confirmed that it was indeed for me. It took me a while to process, but I ended up remembering what my dad told me and agreed to sign his clipboard. My eyes widened when I saw the giant box that the delivery guy pushed into my dorm room, just wondering what my father could have possibly sent to me. I was quick to open it when the delivery guy left, and what I saw there made me really nostalgic. He sent me some spare parts from his workplace, just unfinished machines and other things that he thought I could use to create something of my own. I made sure to call him up that day to thank him, and I just didn't expect that it would actually cheer me up like he said it would. But I guess he just knows how much of a nerd I am. I wasted no time. As soon as I was able to lay out everything my dad put in that box, I was quick to start sketching and creating a blueprint. I used that time to just let out all of my frustration, wanting to create a machine that'll help me with that professor who wouldn't listen to reason. For hours and hours on end, I just kept sketching and sketching until I was able to settle with a design I liked. It took a while, considering I had to do a lot of changes, but after settling for something, I immediately got into building it. I didn't really think much of this machine because I didn't think it would actually work. I just thought it'd be a fun exercise, something to help me distract myself from the stress of failing to graduate, all because of one professor who wouldn't change her mind. For a few days, I worked on that nonstop. A simple project to help me get my mind off things. It helped me feel better about my situation. And I guess I had my dad to thank. I was nervous to try it out the first time, but at the same time, I reminded myself that it was simply a project I did for fun, and that it was alright if it didn't work out the way I had hoped it would. So, I tried it out. It's a bit complicated to explain, but I do most of the work to get it to do something. I have to type in my arguments to change a person's mind, basically just convincing them why they should lean towards the answer I want them to give. I have to reach a certain number of reasons for it to work the way I want it to, which involves a lot of thinking. The hard part was actually involving the people I wanted to be affected by it. But I had managed to disguise the machine itself as a phone. I can simply just show it to them, let them stare at the sensor-like screen, and then BAM! They'd give the answer I want. I didn't know where to start, actually, or how to try it out. I thought my friend could help me out with it, but I just know the essence of the machine would be gone if I told him how it worked. So I just started with something simple, like his favorite food. I tried to convince him that my favorite food was better than his, to which he always disagreed before. I typed in my reasoning, and when we met up the next day, I started the machine and told him to take a look at my new phone. He went quiet for a few seconds, and I thought he'd picked up on what I was doing, or call me a weirdo for having such an odd gadget. But, to my surprise, he looked up at me and told me straight to my face that indeed, my favorite food was better than his. I thought it might just be pure coincidence. But what we were talking about was far from our favorite foods. To say I was amazed was an understatement. I knew I needed to try it out again and take it a step further. I attended a party that same week, and I tried coming out to this girl who I know would reject me for sure, because she thinks I'm way out of her league. I tried to make conversation first, to maybe soothe things out, but it felt like talking to a brick wall. So, what's your name? Jess. I knew she was completely uninterested with the way all her attention was on her phone, but still I tried. Ah, nice to meet you, Jess. What brings you here? Drinks, I guess. And that kind of conversation went on for a couple more minutes, and I knew she was testing how boring and uninteresting I was. But I had a goal in mind, so I had to stay. I already input my reasons from earlier that day, and when she said no when I asked for her number, I showed her the machine. Again, like my friend, she went quiet for a while before turning back to me and reciting her phone number. At this point, I didn't even know how to react. I was excited to try it out on my professor. I didn't even bother writing her number down and just headed straight back to my dorm to immediately start writing down my reasons. I emailed her that night, requesting another meeting. I barely got a wink of sleep, just typing reasons into my trusted machine and wondering if it will actually work. I supposed it was worth a shot rather than just not trying it at all. I walked into her office the next day all clammy and nervous. I didn't think my little fun project would actually end up as something that'll help me. But at the same time, I'm not even sure if it will work. I fiddled with it for a good few minutes before gathering the courage to enter. Ah, Lucas, have a seat, my professor told me. I did as she said, and she began to explain how I failed her class and how she didn't have control over my grades because apparently I was the one who was making them, and that my output reflects my scores. But, ma'am, We've been over this, haven't we, Lucas? She sighed. I took a deep breath. Can't you please at least give me a passing grade? It doesn't have to be high. She shook her head. I'm sorry, but no, I can't do that. I stared at her for a moment, my hand fiddling with the machine. I then brought it up to her, showing her the screen I showed both my friend and the girl I met last night. What the... My professor stared at it for a long while, and I even thought it wouldn't work. That the first two were just a coincidence and not an actual result of my machine. I was about to say something and apologize, but then she spoke up before me. A passing grade, you say? She paused and turned to me. All right. I couldn't believe it. It actually worked. I didn't know what else to do but stare at her before slowly getting up to leave. I thanked her as I left. I stared at the machine I created in my hands and began to wonder about the possibility and power that I possessed now. My heart was racing, and I knew the opportunities were limitless, but I couldn't be bothered. I was just happy having avoided the catastrophe of repeating another year.